Everybody, and welcome to Something to Celebrate. This is Tom, and as Matt mentioned, Amber is not with us today. Her daughter, Saffron, is on her way to St. Louis via train from Wheaton College, so Amber is on her way to pick up her daughter to bring her home for the holiday. So anyhow, this is Thanksgiving week, so welcome everybody to Something to Celebrate. We're going to start off today with our word of the day is sophrosony. Now that's just an odd word based on an old Greek word, sophos, which means wisdom. So sophrosony is a healthy state of mind characterized by self-control, moderation, and a deep awareness of one's true self, and resulting in true happiness. And at this holiday time and going into the Christmas season and Hanukkah season, we hope that is the state of mind that everybody has. And another great word that I ran across, which I don't know that we have too many of these around here right now, it's a pluviophile. A pluviophile is a lover of rain and someone who finds joy and peace of mind during rainy days. Now, I remember as a kid that I was a pluviophile. Growing up in Florida, it was great. We loved running around and playing in the rain and splashing around in puddles and whatnot. Not so much of a pluviophile these days. We want to transition right now and talk a little bit about Natural Solutions. It is a continual sponsor of almost all the shows here at Axe Media. So we're going to talk today about branched chain amino acid. It comes in powders or capsules. Branched chain amino acid, BCAA, is available in powder or capsule form. It's a high-performing amino acid formula. It's ideal for athletes who train hard and want to preserve and build lean muscle. And I would say that that's probably great for even those that have moderate levels of exercise. It's for anyone wanting to get faster results and better performance from their exercise and workout routines. These amino acids provide your body with important muscle building elements to promote lean muscle building, strength, and recovery. It's a new high-potency amino acid formula that's designed for building muscle and strength. You can see noticeable results in under 30 days. So, lower your body fat and enhance muscular repair and recovery. Reduce muscle soreness. Go stronger. Prevent muscle breakdown. Maximize your performance and ability to work out longer. BCA is manufactured in a USA-based GPM certified facility. And branched amino acid is available at www.naturalsolutionsstore.bz. Well, today is November 26th, and there are things to celebrate. So in the month of November, we are still celebrating Aviation History Month, Child Safety Protection Month, National Diabetes Awareness Month, and Peanut Butter Lovers Month. Today, November 26th, this was kind of fun. For those of you who remember or maybe still read the Peanuts column, today is Good Grief Day. And that is in honor of Charles Schulz, who was born on this day in 1922, the writer of the Peanuts column that we enjoyed for many, many years. And that was not his first column. In doing a little bit of digging into the life of Charles Schulz, he had from 1947 to 1957 to 1950 a cartoon column called Lil Folks. And then in 1950, he retired that particular comic strip and developed the Peanuts column, starting in 1950. Started off in 1950 with 9 papers. So Peanuts debuted in only 9 different newspapers. And in its heyday in the 1960s, it got to where it was showing up in over 2,600 newspapers. And something I didn't realize, I thought that Snoopy had always been a part of the Peanuts column, but it did not appear, Snoopy, the character, did not appear until the 3rd strip on October 4th, 1950. And then Snoopy stayed with him, and then through the years, additional characters were added from year to year. Pigpen, and just other characters as the years went on. And on this day in 1942, the film Casablanca premiered, and it was a great film, Academy Award-winning film starring Ingrid Bergman and Humphrey Bogart. And on this day in 1789, the first national Thanksgiving was recognized in America. 1865, Alice in Wonderland, the book by Lewis Carroll, was first published in America. And on this date in 1922, English archaeologist Howard Carter opened up King Tut's tomb in Egypt. And today, for birthdays, we want to give a shout out to Tina Turner. Tina Turner was born this day in 1939.
Well, what's love got to do with it?
Yeah, what's love
That's
got to do with it
That's
at
a
all?
question I have to ask.
So it's been it's a great day, and we have a couple of interviews that will be coming up. So we are going to dial into Penelope Carlavato. She has been a guest on the show before. Penelope is a hospitality expert. She is a member of the Titanic Speakers Bureau, born in England, and as a child moved to North Dakota, South Dakota with her family, but grew up in kind of an English-style home. So that becomes the underpinnings of what Penelope Carlavato does. She's a writer, author. She is a speaker and is somewhat of a Titanic expert. So she will be coming around here to the Springfield area in the fall when they have the Titanic Historical Society. Will be having their annual convention here in the Springfield area. I think down in Branson, actually, at the big Titanic exhibit down there.
For her. I'm going to try the first one.
Okay.
To explain to them, his phone doesn't work for this, so we have to
Yep.
use this.
Hello.
Hi, Penelope. Okay.
Hi.
We just need to, we're borrowing someone else's phone here, so we're just getting it over here. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can. Can you hear me all right?
Yes. you're
Should
coming across
I turn off my sound on the?
Yeah, because it's going to kind of do a feedback thing. Yeah, it's a little bit of a delay, so if you'll turn yours off.
Okay, off.
Wait.
Where to go?
Well, Penelope, let's be, just to make sure that we don't take a chance on not getting around to this, let's start with you telling us about your new book. It just arrived. I saw on your Facebook. Just arrived a couple of days ago at your home. Your new book.
It did, and it's always exciting to open that box and to see the cover in four times, looking out at you and exciting. And it's a journal this time. It's something I have not written before. But it's a journal. It's something that I do, and I think a lot of my friends journal daily. And so it's got some quotes from people that are famous and some not so famous and some that I think will really complement your reading, your drinking tea at the same time. So I think journaling and tea time go hand in hand.
And this is another book. Now, they can get that probably Barnes & Noble and Amazon.com.
Amazon,
Okay.
right. They can get one from me on my website at penelopescarlavato.com. But I know people like to go to Amazon because they get that free shipping.
Yep. But if you want an autographed copy, then they need to go to penelopecarlavato.com, correct?
Right. That's correct, right. And then I can autograph it to them and send it off to them. Well, I don't know if anything's getting out today. Boy, we are sitting in the middle of a blizzard.
Wow.
And the snow is coming down. I haven't seen one car on our street yet. So hopefully the weather's a little better where you are. And I'm glad I didn't have to go anywhere this morning.
Yes. It is looking pretty nice here in the Springfield area. Well, hey, this is not your only book, though. This is one of several. So tell us about the other offerings that you have.
Well, my first book was Tea on the Titanic, and I have to say that I've had an interest in things of that era for a long time. I was on a born in England, and my mother and I love to do tea. She loves the royal family, and so we were on a trip back to England when I was just a little girl, and we were having tea on this lovely ocean liner, and my mother made the comment, this must have been what it was like on the Titanic. So as a little girl, I kind of thought, oh, I wonder what that is, and delved into it a little bit. There wasn't too much at the time, but then in the last 20 years, there's been a lot of interest, and the Titanic was actually found. But I was taking my children through the Titanic Museum. Now, not the one in Branson, but the one that is in Pigeon Forge. And it's owned by the same couple. So we were there, and I was going through this museum with my grandkids and looking at all the beautiful silver teapots and the china, the bone china, and all the accoutrements that would have tea. And so that's kind of what was the inspiration for writing the first book, Tea on the Titanic. And that opened it just opened doors you would not believe. And then that led to the next book, which is a children's book, and it's called First Class Etiquette. And so I've kind of tied the two together, that manners are important, manners matter from Titanic to today. So really not much has changed in the way that manners are presented. The biggest thing, of course, which I think all of our listeners will know, that we have that darn cell phone. And the cell phone can really cut into our etiquette and our manners, especially when we're at the dining room table with our kids. So that was one of the
teaching
reasons
kids about etiquette and manners is a bit more challenging today, isn't it?
It certainly is, yes. And as you probably well know, you want to see your grandchildren have good manners, and it's been proven that not just word of mouth, but this has actually been proven that families that can eat together and communicate together at least once a week are going to have their children less likely to get on drugs.
Wow.
And have other problems. So, that's such a simple thing, and you look at it and you think, gosh, why are not more people having dinner time hour, like they used to? And also, it's helping the younger generation that are now getting out of college. Their manners are playing a very important part in whether they're going to get the job or not. When they're interviewed, a lot of companies are taking their prospective employees out to a meal and just seeing kind of how they do at the dinner table. And so sometimes good manners will get you a job.
Wow. And I understand that at one point you were able to give one of your books to Queen Elizabeth. Tell us about that. How did that go?
Well, it was kind of funny. My mother was such a royalist. We have all these scrapbooks of things that since the Queen was a little girl, my mother collected magazine articles and newspaper clippings. And so I've always been following, I've kind of followed in her footsteps. I'm kind of a traditionalist, so if my mother liked the Queen, then I wanted. So when my first book came out, I thought, I'm going to send a copy to the Queen. I did, and she sent me a very nice letter back, and I feel like, I don't think she ever read it, who knows, but her secretary said, the Queen says this, the Queen says that, the Queen was very interested in how you came to write this book, and the Queen was interested in the fact that, you were born in England. And so I think that really was, she probably looked at the cover maybe. And then I sent the children's book to Princess Charlotte for her birthday. I think it was her second birthday, and I got a very nice letter back from the Duchess of Cambridge, her mother, Kate. And then I sent the Art of Afternoon Tea back to the Queen, got another nice letter from her again on that, but a little less formal. So, yes, I think it's, and I did read not too long ago that, they receive gifts all the time, but the one thing they keep is books. They do not give the books away. So I thought, well, maybe somewhere in Buckingham Palace, my book's floating around.
Wow. I was looking around on your website, and I saw that you had actually gone to the castle at the invitation, correct me if I'm wrong, of the residents of the castle, on which the show Downton Abbey is based.
Well, I went as a tourist, let's put it that.
Uh-huh.
I went to Highclere Castle, and that's where Downton Abbey was filmed.
Mm-hmm.
I think, many people have come, and when I went, it was it was called a Victorian garden party,
Mm-hmm.
and my cousin and I went, and we spent the whole day at Downton Abbey or at Highclere Castle. And I was able to meet the present Lord and Lady Carnarvon, who are the Lord and Lady of the house, who have
Wow.
had this great idea with Julian Fellows to use their residence as a place for filming. And so it's basically saved that home. Many gorgeous royal manor homes were destroyed after World War II because the people couldn't pay the taxes on the homes, and so they just bulldozed them. And so this was one family that kind of kept that home going. And I think one of the interesting things, I did meet them, I did talk to them, but the present Lord, his mother was actually from Sheridan, Wyoming. And so I had a little chat with him about that, and so that
Wow.
was fun. Just little tidbits that you get. But it was an amazing day. I got to stay on the grounds. We could go in and out of the house as many times as we wanted. We had tea. We were served lunch, but I paid for it. I wasn't at the invitation of of Lord and Lady Carnarvon, but it was still an amazing experience.
Wow. Your specialty is hospitality. And a
Correct.
lot of times we when we're thinking about inviting people over, we're trying to think of ways to entertain them, but that's not really what hospitality is all about. So tell us a little bit about what it would look like to sort of re-engage hospitality with friends, with family.
Well, I think one of the biggest things that we have to realize that all of us have been given the gift of hospitality, maybe in a little different measure. And I think the way we have people in our home really goes along with our personalities too. But the main thing is just to allow God to work through you and to use your home.
Mm-hmm.
Open the front door and invite people in. It's I think back when we were a young couple and we were not believers, and people that were in the church that we were visiting actually just opened their homes to us and had us come and have a dinner. And it doesn't have to be fancy. And I think I've seen that God has used tea as a tool for me to open my front door, and that's basically why I've been writing about tea and hospitality and sharing the gifts that God has given you. I was surprised when, a fairly new Christian, that God could use me, that he could use my simple gift of hospitality, which I know a lot of people say, oh, I couldn't do that. But there is something that every one of us can do to just one at a time, and that's why my little motto is just sharing Jesus one teacup at a time.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to have, a huge grandiose party or a big dinner party. But I also remember that it takes so little to just go a little bit further and to make things special. So that's kind of why I like to have tea parties, because I can really pull out all the stops, and it can be a lot of fun. And ladies love the beautiful things that God has created. I mean, he's created flowers and color and all these wonderful silver teapots and the china, and all these things add to how I feel God has called me to share my gift of hospitality.
And there's
So
not
it's
just one
become-
kind of tea party, right? I mean, there's different kinds.
Oh yeah, there's three main kinds, and the one that's really a simple one is just open your door and put on the kettle and have someone come in for a cup of tea. Or there's the cream tea, which you would serve with, the pot of tea, but also you'd make some scones or scones and serve them with jam and cream. And that's a very nice and easy way to have people in.
Matt's
Or
over
there's
here
the-
rubbing his tummy. I'm just telling you.
Yeah, okay.
Sounds
And
so
then
good.
there's the traditional afternoon tea, which consists of the three courses. There would be the cute little finger tea sandwiches, and then the scones, and then you would have some little sweets or treats. But then this is where the confusion comes in, because there's also really this fourth kind that a lot of people confuse with afternoon tea, and they call it high tea.
Mm-hmm.
But high tea is really supper. It was the working class English people, when they came home from work, they would have their tea or their tea time around 5 o'clock at a higher table, at a dinner table, where afternoon tea is the one that, I think where we had when we went to that lovely tea room in Branson when I was there last year, Tom and Amber.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that in a minute. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
good.
and so, but high tea is really supper. It's just something that would have something substantial, but it would be served with that proverbial big pot of tea. And people get so confused and think that the high in tea means that it's more glorious and it's more, but usually it just means a higher price. So the people get it confused. So if I don't leave anything with the listeners today, is that they would know that high tea is not the fancy afternoon tea.
So it's not it's high table and higher price.
A higher table, yeah, and it's just supper. So a lot of English people, especially the ones in my generation, will call their supper time tea. And so that can be kind of confusing. When I was little, I'd invite friends over for tea, and they'd kind of look at me kind of strange when really I was inviting them over for our evening meal.
So on this cold, chilly day there in Colorado, you're going to be having tea this afternoon at your home?
Well, we are. We have guests from Atlanta who I don't think are going to go anywhere today. And
No.
they have their daughter or their she's out of college, but she's here, so she really wanted to have a tea party today. So we have everything for the fixings. It's just going to be if we can get the extra people here. If not, we may have to have people come from next door. But yes, we are having a nice afternoon tea party here in the middle of a blizzard.
Well, I know you've been here in the Springfield area, and there were a couple of places that serve some English-style food that you seem to enjoy. I was with you in one place, and that was, I think it was called Ms. Gilmore's Vintage Suitcase and Tea Room on Commercial Street, and also there was London Calling. Tell us your impressions of London Calling and Ms. Gilmore's.
Oh, it was so fun to go. Mrs. Gilmore's, I mean, that's just a sight to behold. That was so fun, very pleasing for a woman's eye. I mean, she just had all kinds of things. You could shop, and we had a lovely afternoon tea. We had hot tea with finger sandwiches, and I think we had some nice little desserts, and that was fun. And the whole idea was it created an atmosphere that was conducive to us having some nice conversations. You know, it wasn't loud and noisy. It was rather quiet. We could hear one another sitting at the table, and it was just a leisurely time to have fellowship. And that's what is the essence of tea time. It slows us down, and they always say you can't hurry a good cup of tea. So it does. It
Well
forces
said.
us to slow down.
You know, and it was interesting there because I was with you on that one occasion, and one of the things I noticed is you're talking about that it's not a noisy. Some places can sound almost like a big cavern, and you're hearing every single conversation that's going on around you. But this is, in addition to being a tea room, it is a place where there are antiques and there's clothing, old style clothing. So that, I think, really helped the sound. We just had the feeling that our conversation right around the table, we could focus on that and not be bothered by what everybody else in the whole building was saying.
Yes, that's very true, Tom. It's so important that you can hear the person that you're sitting next to, and that's becoming harder and harder. And I think that's one of my big pushes why I write the books is I want women to be able to know they can have that kind of atmosphere in their home. You're not going to have all the competing things, and it's so easy. And having a tea party is, yes, it's a little time consuming, but it's also a very inexpensive way to have people in your home. It doesn't cost much. It's just a little bit time consuming, but I've often thought, you know, hospitality is costly. It's costly in your time because it's not something that a lot of people want to put out anymore. You know, they just would rather go meet at the local coffee shop. And here you've got everybody on their computers, and you've got people talking, and you can't hear. And so it's so nice just to have people come into your home. And you know when you go into somebody's home, you get to know them a little bit better. You know a little bit about, what do they like, and what do they collect. And so I think hospitality in that way, being in a quiet, conducive environment is really nice for both the person that's doing the serving and also for the one that's on the receiving end.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it was. That was a really fun place. And then the other place you mentioned, London Calling. Oh my goodness, that was so fun. Got to eat in a double-decker bus.
Yes, yeah.
So-
Neil is another England native.
Yeah, and I did not get to meet him. He wasn't there that day, but his pasties were amazing. They were wonderful. And so I'm looking forward to coming back and getting to go to those two places.
Now, you're going to perhaps be back this coming fall for a big Titanic convention?
Right. The Titanic Historical Society is having a convention in Branson this year. They choose someplace different to have it every year.
Mm-hmm.
And so this year they're advertising that it's going to be in Branson, but no date has been given yet. So I'll keep my eyes out and let you know when I'll be back in time.
And hopefully you'll be doing another book signing there. I remember the last time you were in Springfield, I believe you were doing some book signings at the Titanic exhibit in Branson.
Yes, at the Titanic Museum. They're always very gracious. If your listeners have never been there, it's an amazing place to go. It's a very first-class museum. They have a curator. They have, I think, over 400 artifacts from, maybe not from the actual Titanic, but they have them from the White Star Line, which was the owner, and all the, they didn't have plates and dishes that were just for the Titanic. They had them for the Britannic and some of their other ships. So, yeah, you get to see a lot of things that were actually there, and they will show you, what was actually brought up from the Titanic, and then what was maybe part of the White Star Line's China.
Well,
But
Penelope, you're the queen of hospitality, the ambassador of tea, and how can people connect with you? And you not only write books, you speak, you do some teachings. So tell us a little bit about what you can do for folks and how they can connect with you to maybe set up a time when Penelope can come out and share with them personally.
Well, I'd love to come and speak to your women's group. Of course, one of the big times for me is Mother's Day. I do a lot of speaking at Mother's Day, and then also Christmas, where a lot of people have Christmas teas in a lot of churches. So be happy to talk with your event planner to kind of connect with you and come and see you. I'd love for you to connect with me on Facebook, Penelope Carlovado Author, and we can communicate and get to know each other there. I'd love for you to, of course, buy one of my books, especially my new book that's out, the Tea Lovers Journal, and then the third book is The Art of Afternoon Tea. That's the from the era of Downton Abbey and the Titanic. So in that book there is a lot of things about that era, the early 1900s. I loved the clothing. I loved all the things about that era, and so that's very important in that book, and it ties into Downton Abbey. So if you're a Downton Abbey fan or Titanic fan, you're going to love that book. But in all the books, I give instructions and recipes for how you can have afternoon tea in your home. Even the children's book has directions and recipes easy enough for children to be able to do a tea party for their mom. And I've had a lot of teachers use that book as for their unit on the Titanic or that period, and they actually do a tea, and so I'll come out and share with that. So, yeah, I'd love to connect with you. Timefortea.com, PenelopeCarlovado.com, and my email is penelopesteatime@gmail.com. So Penelope's in it. Anyway, if you type that in, maybe hopefully you'll get me, Penelope. But it's been, it was so fun, Tom, to be able to chat with you and talk about your fun town. It's got a lot of fun things there to come. And I have to say that I'm sorry Amber's not on the show today, but she was very helpful with me in this last book, getting it going and doing the cover. And so it's a beautiful book, and my granddaughter did the actual artwork for it, and then
I saw that.
Amber did the cover. Yeah. So it's a real pretty book, and I'm really excited about that.
Well, and Penelope, I just personally want to thank you for being a regular contributor to Leading Hearts magazine. That's leadinghearts.com. And if you want to regularly get fresh recipes from Penelope, you can subscribe. It's a free subscription, online subscription to leadinghearts.com. Every issue, 6 times a year, Penelope will have a nice recipe in there and a little story of, and just some words of encouragement. So Penelope, thank you so much for being here. Look forward to seeing you again in person.
Well, thank you, Tom. It's been a delight as usual, and I'm just excited that I've actually had been to Branson and was able to go to some of the fun places there. So thank you for having me, and you have a wonderful day, and stay warm.
Well, you too, especially you. Don't get out.
No, get your kettle on. So we're just watching the snowfall coming down. So hope it doesn't leave too much more.
Okay.
Thanks, Tom.
All right. Thank you, Penelope.
Bye bye.
All right. Well, thank you. Matt's going to get that turned off. And while we are waiting for our next time for our next interview, we're going to talk about Natural Solutions Store again. This time, blood pressure supplement. High blood pressure, also referred to as HBP or hypertension. It's when your blood pressure, the force of blood flowing through your blood vessels, is consistently too high. And I didn't understand this, Matt. Nearly half of American adults have high blood pressure, and many don't even know that they have it.
Oh, yeah.
The best way to know if you have blood pressure is to have your blood pressure checked. That's duh. Go ahead and have that done. Blood pressure supplement from Natural Solutions Store supports heart health. It promotes energy production in cells, maintains a healthy blood pressure. Its proprietary blend includes some spinach product, mahonia, aquilifolium, and just some other things, cannabinol. Blood pressure supplement supports cardiovascular health by lowering blood pressure with botanical extracts thought to support healthy blood pressure. It can be used to complement a healthy diet, exercise, and doctor-prescribed regimen. So please get your blood pressure checked, and you can find blood pressure supplement at www.naturalsolutionsstore.bz.
I'm ready when you are.
Okay, yeah, let's go ahead and try that. And as she's coming on, a quick quote from our next guest, Erica Wiggenhorn, in a new book she just released. Isn't it amazing how dour some Christians can be? We serve the King who regularly went to dinner parties.
That's a good point.
Yes.
She may not recognize the number.
That could be. Erica?
Hello.
Erica.
Sprung. Please record your message after the beep. When you're finished,
Okay. Well,
Try the alternative number?
yes.
Or did you want to text her and let her know it's a different number?
It's right.
It's right there. I got it.
It's right there on the sheet. Okay. Well, Erica Wiggenhorn is one of our members of Advanced Writers and Speakers Association. Has just released a book titled Incredible Jesus? Unexplainable Jesus. And another quote from her book that I thought was interesting is, Jesus spent most of his life in the ordinary streets and homes of ordinary people. One of the most unexplainable things about Jesus is that we can always find him in the midst of every day. Suddenly, he is there. So I may try.
Hey, this is Lori. Please leave a message.
Okay. All right. I may need to try and call them and let them know that it's going to come from another number. Okay. Okay. There we go. 3. Sorry for the dead ear.
No, that's all right. Hey, it happens.
I'd like to take this time to remind everybody that you can go online to axmediagroup.com/please-donate to help to support the shows that we have and the programs that we have available here on Axe Television Network. So we had a really good telethon, raised $6,000, and we still need help. So this is your opportunity. Go online, axmediagroup.com, and you should be able to set up either a monthly gift or you could set up a one-time gift. No gift is too small and no gift is too large, so be sure and check it out. Also check out the Real News Review as well. So
Okay.
Tom's trying to get a hold of his
Okay.
guest.
She thought we were calling an hour ago.
Oh, is that what she said?
Yeah, I got a note from the gal who set it up. She must be in a different time zone.
California, I think.
Well, so she is not available right now. That is okay. We are going to move on to something else. You know, as we're moving into the holiday season, I ran across something that relates to one of my favorite films, and it's just one of those things that you always want to watch at least once. That I always like to watch at least once during the holiday time, and that's It's a Wonderful Life. So here's a little story that if it was Paul Harvey, he would be saying the rest of the story. So just months after winning his 1941 Academy Award for Best Actor in The Philadelphia Story, Jimmy Stewart, one of the best-known actors of the day, left Hollywood and joined the U.S. Army. I did not know that. He was the first big-name movie star to enlist in World War II. And I want to give credit where credit is due. This is from Ned Forney, who's a writer, from a column he wrote a couple of years ago. But I just ran across this and came up on my Facebook. So an accomplished private pilot, the 33-year-old Hollywood icon, became a U.S. Army Air Force aviator, earning his second lieutenant commission in early 1942. With his celebrity status and huge popularity with the American public, he was assigned to starring in recruiting films, attending rallies, and training younger pilots. Stewart, however, wasn't satisfied. He wanted to fly combat missions in Europe, not spend time in stateside training command. By 1944, frustrated and feeling the war was passing him by, he asked his commanding officer to transfer him to a unit deploying in Europe. His request was reluctantly granted. Can you imagine that? He requested combat duty. So Stewart, now a captain, was sent to England, where he spent the next 18 months flying B-24 Liberator bombers over Germany. Throughout his time overseas, the U.S. Army Air Corps' top brass had tried to keep the popular movie star from flying over enemy territory, but Stewart would hear nothing of it. Yeah, and just a sidebar, I find that interesting that this was a time before there was even an Air Force. It was a U.S. Army Air Corps at that time. But his wartime service came at a high personal price. In the final months of World War II, he was grounded for being flak happy. Today, we would call that PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. When he returned to the U.S. in August 1945, Stewart was a changed man. He had lost so much weight that he looked sickly. He rarely slept, and when he did, he had nightmares of planes exploding and men falling through the air screaming. In one mission alone, his unit lost 13 planes and 130 men, most of whom he knew personally. He was depressed, couldn't focus, and refused to talk to anyone about his war experiences. His acting career was all but over. As one of Stewart's biographers put it, every decision he made during the war was going to preserve life or cost lives. He took back to Hollywood all the stress that he had built up. In 1946, he got his break. He took the role of George Bailey, the suicidal father in It's a Wonderful Life, and the rest is history. Actors and crew of the set realized that in many of the disturbing scenes of George Bailey unraveling in front of his family, Stewart wasn't acting. His PTSD was being captured on film for potentially millions to see. But despite Stewart's inner turmoil, making the movie was therapeutic for the combat veteran. He would go on to become one of the most accomplished and loved actors in American history. When asked in 1941 why he wanted to leave his acting career to fly combat missions over Nazi Germany, he said, "This country's conscience is bigger than all the studios in Hollywood put together, and the time will come when we'll have to fight." This weekend, as many of us watch the classic Christmas film, It's a Wonderful Life, it's also a fitting time to remember the sacrifices of Jimmy Stewart and all the men and women who gave up so much to serve their country during wartime. We will always remember you. And then he writes this postscript. While fighting in Europe, Stewart's Oscar statue was proudly displayed in his father's Pennsylvania hardware store. Throughout his life, the beloved actor always said his father, a World War I veteran, was the person who had made the biggest impact on him. Jimmy Stewart was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom in 1985, and he died in 1997 at the age of 89. So now as we're
Who would've
watching
thought?
when we're watching that movie and watching those scenes where he does seem to be becoming unraveled, it sounds, according to this, what this writer said, it sounds like what we're watching PTSD in action.
It's like, wow, that PTSD
Actually,
looks realistic. Well, it's because it is.
yeah, actually just unrolling for us on stage. Well, I'm so sorry that we were not able to connect with Erica this morning. But you know,
Threw you through a loop this morning.
well, it did. But you know, the thing is, you always try to be prepared as a
Oh, yeah.
as a just in case.
Those of you who don't know, this is Matt sitting back here behind the screen. here.
Mr. Producer, he's the
I'm
one
gonna
that
keep-
makes all the magic happen. He and Jason Cobb are always, you know,
Dr. Paul
w-
calls him Festus and calls me Matt Dillon.
I was in theater for a number of years, and I came to realize as an actor, as a director, that the most important people were the technical crew, because they're the ones who made sure that you were seen and heard. And without them, nothing would have happened.
Yeah, it's a learning experience back here.
Yep.
And most of it's trial and error, and all the error is on the air. So
Well, I ran across another interesting story. As we're talking about something to celebrate, sometimes it's the little things that you see and you go, that is really cool. And this is a story that dates back to late July 2019, where a 6-year-old opened a lemonade stand to take his mom on a date. But that's not the whole story. A 6-year-old in Denver opened a lemonade stand to raise enough money to take his mother on a date after his father passed away. Brady Campbell's father passed away a few weeks ago after a battle with stage 4 colon cancer. Brady said that he and his dad came up with the idea for a lemonade stand. To take my mom on a date, because I didn't have enough money and I wanted to pay, so I did it, the 6-year-old said. The day after his father passed away, this 6-year-old followed through on his promise to take care of his mom. His neighbors and friends came in by the crowd, caught in the attention of his friends and neighbors came by in the crowd, caught the attention of a Denver police officer. Once he heard Brady's story, he put out a radio call to other first responders. Isn't that cool? Fire trucks and police cars started rolling up, and that day, for their date, Brady raised $244. Thanks to
that's a fortune. To a kid, that's a
well,
fortune.
absolutely. You know, and thanks to an incredible community, neighborhood,
Public servants.
you know, and time again, when things like this happen, it just seems like your first responders, your police officers, your fire personnel, EMTs, are the first ones to step in and really make something like this happen. Now, another story I ran across, dating back in August, A woman in line at a grocery store pays for a week's worth of meals for foster care kids. A stranger paid the grocery bill for a foster care employee at an H-E-B in Texas after the woman's check would not be accepted by the cashier. Reagan Gamble, an employee with the Concho Valley Home for Girls and Children's Emergency Shelter, was in line with 2 teenage girls from the shelter when she learned her check had an error and could not be accepted by the store. There was a mistake made on the check. She had shopped about an hour to get enough groceries to feed the children a week's worth of meals that they would help prepare. And that's when the customer behind Gamble handed the cashier a debit card and insisted she would pay the $160 bill. The woman told Gamble that she had been in a similar situation herself and was happy to help the foster care organization. The kind gesture left an impression on the 2 girls who watched as the stranger paid for their groceries. The kids were shocked, Gamble said. One later said she had never seen anyone do that before. We talked about it after leaving H-E-B. Gamble said both teens, who had been taken out of abusive situations at home, began discussing ways they could repay the stranger's kindness by doing something nice for others in return. Next time we go somewhere, if we see someone struggling with groceries, we can help load the car and put up the basket. The girls also talked about paying for someone's drink at Sonic, she said. So that woman paid it
make
forward.
a big difference.
Yeah. And
It
makes
could
it
help in restoring people's faith in humanity.
and
Well,
I was
in God through humanity.
yeah, and I was in the foster care system for a time, as was our previous guest. And it's amazing how the community can step up,
I wasn't in foster care. I was in a group home because of a situation with my biological mother. And they made it a point to, because my brother was old enough, we were in separate centers. Mm-hmm. And so the leaders of the centers got together and made sure that my brother and I were in the same place at the same time, like at the pool or at the pool hall, day camp, stuff like that. They made sure that we could see each other. And that made a big impression on me. Mm-hmm. So the little things, you may think they don't matter.
Well, and at this time
Sometimes
of
they matter
year,
most.
especially, there are children that without the help of the community, without other people stepping in, really will not experience that, what you might call the joy of Christmas. And I remember before we went into foster care, when I'm not really even sure to this date why the courts chose to remove us from my single mom's home and put us into foster care. I'm not sure of all the dynamics of that. I was just too young to understand it. But I do know that there was no money for gifts under the Christmas tree. So there was some kind of a community initiative. I was too young to even understand it. But thanks to the community, there were presents under the tree. And a special community gathering, I remember. Now, we were in Florida, so we could do outdoor activities, but they almost put on a little carnival where I guess you'd call them these days underprivileged kids, or from poorer homes, were able to gather together and eat hot dogs and cotton candy and watch magic acts and ride rides. And it was just a special gathering that was put together especially for them. And I know sometimes we can become a little calloused as we think, well, surely those kids that are on an angel tree or that they're asking the community to buy gifts for, surely there's some other way that they will be able to get something for Christmas. Well, folks, honestly, the answer to that is sometimes no. Sometimes if we don't do it, it doesn't get done. And I know that from personal experience, that there were a couple of years there after Mom and Dad divorced, that we had gifts under the tree because there were people who were kind, who stepped up and made it happen. Well, Matt, I think right now I'm going to shift over and maybe give us another natural solution. This is forskolin extract. So you can suppress your appetite and boost your metabolism with this extra strength weight loss pill. Control your carb and sugar urges and re-energize yourself with this premium herbal antioxidant product. Forskolin extract is the best antioxidant weight loss product in the market. It is extracted from the Indian coleus plant. With its premium pure strength pills, Forskolin is the #1 formula that works with diet and exercise, and that's important. There's nothing that's going to work on its own if you're not doing your part. With diet and exercise to drop those extra pounds and lose weight. It will cleanse your body from bad toxins while re-energizing you at the same time. Working as a fat burner to get optimum results, this doctor-recommended weight loss product will have you feeling your slimmest and best in no time. Forskolin extract helps decrease stored body fat, helps suppress appetite and cravings, promotes increased metabolism, supports building of lean muscle mass, and will not cause jitters, nausea, or headaches. Forskolin extract is available at www.naturalsolutionsstore.bz. Well, folks, thank you. It's been a great time here, even with the little hiccup that we had. So thank you for joining us here on Something to Celebrate. And as we discussed a little earlier, it would be wonderful if everyone in the community, in all communities all across America, would do something special for someone. If everyone did something for even just one child outside of their own family, then all children in this country would have a joyful Christmas with presents under the tree. So this is Tom, thanking you for joining us at Something to Celebrate. And why don't you, today, go out there and yourself find something to celebrate.